Hello, everybody, and welcome to Called Up the Prospects podcast. I'm Chris Peters of FloHockey, joined as always by my partner in crime and co-host Cam Robinson of Elite Prospects. Cam, great to be with you once again today, and boy, do we have a lot to get to. How you doing, my friend?
I'm doing well, buddy. Yeah, it's last early morning coach of the season here, so I'm going to be sleeping in a little bit. That's not true at all. I have morning meetings that start at 6:15 a.m., but still not at the cold rink anyways. Yeah.
Yeah, how does anything ever get done in the Pacific time zone, I wonder, with all those early mornings you guys have to have for the rest of us east of you? But yeah, we got a lot to get to on today's show. We're going to talk a little bit about the post-trade deadline and the teams that are really bad. We're going to talk about the
Mm.
post-trade deadline lottery teams. They've got a lot of work to do. They've got a lot of it to do at the draft. Cam and I are going to break down what they have as needs and also what they can do to help themselves here, but a lot to get to on that. So, Cam, let's just jump right into it. Talking about the teams that have been awful this year. And when you're talking about awful hockey teams, it's hard not to start with the Vancouver Canucks, currently dead last in the NHL, in the driver's seat for the number one pick, the team nearest to you, the team nearest and
Hmm.
dearest to you as well. But it's a team in a very weird spot right now. Obviously it's the post Quinn Hughes era in Vancouver. So you lose your franchise cornerstone. You have some young players in the pipeline. You have some different things that, can to look forward to a little bit. But really, the opportunity that exists at the top of this draft is pretty big. So let's first talk about kind of what they have in the pipeline, and then let's go with what they need. So let's talk, obviously there were young players included in the trade for Quinn Hughes. What do you make of the current cupboard in Vancouver?
Well, just generally, like, hello, darkness, my old friend. Hey, with the post Quinn Hughes era and the shell of Elias Pettersson, and yeah, it's been. I mean, this team came into the season with playoff aspirations, and not like they thought they could contend for the division, and there they are with like a dozen point gap between 31. So yes, like they finally are forced into a rebuild, despite I'm sure ownership's chagrin. But kudos is that at least they targeted a whole bunch of draft picks at the deadline and leading up to the deadline, and so they've got 2 firsts, they've got 2 seconds this year. I think they've got multiple seconds in 2027 as well. So it's like they're trying to get in there. And then in the cupboard, obviously, it starts with Zeev Buium. He's their top guy. Liam Ugrin is showing flashes of being that kind of power forward that we thought he could become. Lekirmaki out for the season now with a shoulder injury. Wondering about the upside on him still long term. Obviously, Coots, most recent first round pick. I think he's got really strong middle six center upside. He's going to be a good player, but probably not an impact player. Tom Vilander, is he a one right D? Probably not. DPD, the defenseman Elias Pettersson. I really like him. I like his jam. But when we're building this sheet today, it's like, what do they need? Elite pieces, regardless of position.
Mm-hmm.
They need someone who can grab the glass, get the ice, pour the drink, and then stir it. Like, they need someone who can really do everything for them. And so if any team needs the first overall pick, and in 56 years they've never had it, that they're due this year to get it, but they'll probably pick third because math is math.
Yeah, I was thinking about, even in a Beyond Belief segment later today, like, do the Vancouver Canucks even get the number one pick with how bad this has been?
Probably not.
Could it get worse?
No.
But here's the other bad part of being bad now. Does that player exist safely in this draft the way that it has in the last few, where you have Matthew Schaefer changes the face of the franchise for the New York Islanders. Macklin Celebrini changes the face of the franchise for the San Jose Sharks. Connor Bedard changes the direction of the Chicago Blackhawks. Not immediately on any of those, except for maybe
But they
Schaefer.
will.
And that is a very interesting place to be right now, is that you're bad, but you're also bad at a time. And the New York Rangers, who are in this mix again, are another team that have been there, and it didn't work out because they were bad at the wrong time. So
Yeah.
do you have any of that sense right now? If you're a Canucks, you're looking at the draft and you do have the chance to pick number one. mean, there's excitement, but we're still having debates about who even should go first.
Yeah, it's very Vancouver to be in that mix finally, or the front runner for that pick, and it not be the guy, the year. And bringing up the Rangers, it's true, but like Lafreniere looked like he was going to be the guy, right? Back to back
Mm-hmm.
CHL Player of the Year awards, like we don't ever see that, right?
Yeah.
Especially a D-1 and then a D. So it's like at least they thought they were going to do it. I still do think it's Gavin McKenna. I'll say this too. I don't think I put this out there anywhere. It's like I've heard Vancouver maybe isn't super high on McKenna. I've heard that from a couple different areas that maybe they aren't as sweet on him as some other clubs are. And maybe that'll come into play here. Maybe it won't. Maybe it'll, at the end of the day, they should just swing on the highest talent available, which is quite clearly Gavin McKenna. But yeah, it's perfect for that year. I do think that McKenna is starting to erase that discussion a bit, though, too, with his play post World Juniors and off ice stuff. Be damned. I think he's convincing teams. Like, did you see that play last night? I clipped it when he just like slowed everything down, broke the defense apart. No back pressure because it was on a change, but still, that's the kind of stuff we see from Patty Kane, Nikita Kucherov, right? Like that they can just make defense schemes look silly, and he has that ability.
Yeah. Tough bounce. Minnesota season ended at the hands of Gavin McKenna the day before we recorded this. And boy, did the goals look bad in that game. But either way, I think that's the thing is like at this point, the Canucks need to hit this pick, regardless of who it is or what it is. They have to hit. And so the discussion for the team is going to have to be very, very detailed in terms of what they need and where they're going. And to me, you're closer to it than I am, but just from the outside looking in, it just feels like there is a problematic culture or air around the team that has existed for these last few years. And now it's like, I don't think this draft pick erases that. Like there's still a lot of surgery that needs to be done, but you can inject some enthusiasm into the organization by landing a talent. And I think of the players that are available, the most exciting option is Gavin McKenna. I think, in terms of point production and entertainment value and skill and all of those things. But then you're also bringing him into that environment where you need to find that core leadership group that you've now lost. You've dismantled it. So how do like that's a whole other thing. Now you can build that in the aggregate later. You can build that in other ways. I'm not saying that the number one pick has to come in and immediately be captain material for this team, but like, I do wonder about that. And so just in the interest of having a more full conversation about Vancouver's options, I would tend to agree with you that I think Gavin McKenna is probably the most electrifying option available to them. Now, I think the question you're going to have to ask yourself is how sold are you on Zeev Buium as a top pairing guy? Now, he's had a tough year in terms of his rookie season, but I still think there's a really good player there that is going to be a part of, the potential core of the Vancouver Canucks. That's why you make that trade. And I think guys like Liam Ugrin and others will help. But Zeev is a very important thing. Do any of the defensemen entice you enough to think, hey, we might have a number one guy in this mix to bypass the electricity of McKenna?
That's what's going to probably happen when they end up at number 3. I could certainly see that making, I could see that making a lot of sense because, as much as I like Tom Wielander's, it's kind of a understated game a little bit. Like, I think he does a lot of quiet things very, very well. I don't think he's going to be like a number one or even a top pair. I think on a good team, you want him as a second pair guy, maybe leading the charge on that second. So then it's like you probably want a big right shot defenseman to be your number one. Well, there's Keaton Verhoff hanging around there, right? Like, and there's a couple other D options if you want to slide back, if you want to get really creative or something like that. But like, I could see the club really, really valuing Keaton Verhoff. He's a great playmaker. He's got the big booming shot. I think that his defensive game has improved this year. Primary points at even strength have been hard to come by for him for Nodak, especially late in the year. But again, 17-year-old playing college hockey, being, a real catalyst on one of the best teams in the nation too. So I don't think that should be understated. I do think that Vancouver really, really likes Keaton Bearhoff. Do I think that they would take him at number one? I don't. That would actually surprise me. That would legitimately surprise me. If they went Stenberg, that wouldn't. That wouldn't surprise me. I think because we've kind of seen that 1A 1B for long stretches this season, and
Yeah.
Swedish GM, kid's a Swede. Vancouver loves Swedes. Like he has a lot of translatable tools. It's a safer pick with upside still. So but going D there would surprise me. I know Corey Pronman put out Chase Reed at number one there the other day. I really, really like Chase. I think that he has as good a shot as any of these guys to be a true number one defenseman because of the offensive instincts he has and the skating and the size and the right shot. But I think that teams still value Keaton, and I think Vancouver would as well.
Yeah, I'm probably with you on that. I mean, and it is important to note, as you said at the top, like if the season ended today, the Canucks have 4 of the first 42 picks in the draft. So that's not bad. I would say that
But
like the late firsts and early seconds are probably, of similar value. I don't
yeah,
think that there's a ton of, you know, if you're banking on getting 4 consecutive pieces that are going to be impactful for your organization, you have to be super lucky for that to happen. And I don't think that's the case, but it is interesting nonetheless to see, that number. I also think that the 33rd, like say they're last, their 33rd overall. There will now be 32 picks in the first round. Ottawa had previously forfeited their pick. They got it back. We're
mm-hmm.
going to talk about that a little bit later too, because I have a question for you for that one for
I've got an
later that I think
answer.
we should all enjoy. But yeah, I'm really intrigued to see what Vancouver does, because at this point, there is a lot that needs to be done, and it does feel like, unfortunately, because of the way things went and the devolution, if that's even a word, of the
It is
of
now.
the yeah, it is now, of the Vancouver
Yeah.
Canucks is really striking, I feel for the fans, because there was a lot of hope with Pettersson, Hughes, Besser, Demko, these guys, in
Horvat,
case there's
JT,
the
like
injuries, JT Miller, yeah, there's the falling out, the lack of chemistry, the lack of cohesiveness within the dressing room, and then the whole thing falls apart and snowballs. So Vancouver, long way to go, but again, like they have some options available to them here, and they're going to pick very high in the draft. And yeah, if they end up at third, in all likelihood, that there's still a chance that one of those two guys would be there, Stenberg or McKenna. A doubtful McKenna would be, but Stenberg potentially. It'll be really interesting to see. But yeah, I mean, wouldn't it be great to have a number one center this year step up and be the guy? Wouldn't it be nice? There's a lot of different things. Do you think there's any
well,
scenario in the world they would trade back?
yeah. Honestly, like I could see it. I could see it if they slipped to 3. I could see it if they really loved Caleb Malholtra, or
Yeah.
or they were comfortable taking any of the Verhoff, Reed, Smits, Carls. Like if they were just okay with whatever, if they had them all tiered up the same. I think if there's a world, I think it would take some real creativity that this organization has historically lacked since Ryan Burke and Mike Gillis, basically, were the only 2 guys, maybe Patty Quinn for a stretch there in the 90s.
Yeah.
It's been a while. So it would surprise me greatly, but I think there's a world where, especially in this draft class, I do think that if Carolina was up there, maybe then I'd be like, this is a real potential for a slide back. But no, and the last thing on Vancouver too is that as this rebuild, as they're calling it now, that they finally adopted that tonnage, is that they've still been like harping that they want to make it a quick turnaround. I haven't heard that so much anymore, which is great, because it's like they should be doing major surgery at the draft as well too, right? Like Jake DeBrusk, Besser, Pettersson, Marcus Pettersson, Kevin Lankin, like any vet with term should be like being shopped so hard, and then you just settle in. You just settle in. Okay, maybe we get Gav or Stenberg or Verhoff this year. Maybe we get Landon Dupont or Joseph next year, right? And then you're looking at 28. Well, maybe we get ourselves a Liam Pugh or a Maddox Schultz. And then it's like, 3, 4 elite pieces. there's your core. Now you're moving north too. But if they go out and they sign a bunch of free agents or something this summer, you just know that this is going to be Buffalo Sabres prolonged rebuild forever in the muddy,
Yeah.
mushy middle or the basement.
Yeah. If you take it down to the studs, you better have a lot of patience. And
Oof, have
that's
to.
the thing that yeah, that's what we'll see. And sometimes some teams it works out much faster than you would imagine. Like Colorado, like in Colorado, it's still a long time. Like it took years and
Mm-hmm.
years for Colorado to become this, but then it's hitting on those picks. The amazing thing that Colorado did was they hit on all their high picks and on none of the next picks. Like they had very few guys that were second, third round picks that made their team outside of,
Yeah, Ryan
but they hit
O'Reilly.
on the very top guys. So these are the ones you cannot afford to get wrong. Yeah, Ryan O'Reilly is
Yeah,
is
and
the
they hit on
outlier
like
example, but a great one.
yeah,
Yeah,
and they
and
also
then
hit on
had
some of their deals too. Then they hit on some of their deals where
yes,
they're like, "Oh, Devon
they did.
Taves for like what was it, second and a third or a couple seconds, like
Yeah,
that kind of
yeah,
stuff." Where it's like
yeah.
when
The
you
trade, the
can make
Duchesne
good
trade
on
ended up
those
bringing in
plays.
Byram. Yeah, yeah.
Hmm.
There's a
Yeah,
lot of good things. So there's many different ways that you can do the rebuild, but like this is the critical stage for Vancouver at this kind of front end of it, where hey, you gotta hit on this pick right off the hop. All right,
yeah,
let's stay in Western Canada, but let's hop over to Alberta and our friends, the Calgary Flames. Calgary, great logo, new building on the way. A lot of work to
exciting.
do for Craig Conroy. A lot of work to do. Obviously, you look at some of the things that, like, the beginning of the end for Calgary was obviously some of their top free agents leaving town. Different get trading. Having to trade them
Yeah,
or what have you. Now they're still kind of in an odd state, but they're down the lineup, down the standings, I should say. Here are the notable players they have of the younger and prospect variety: Zane Parekh, Cole Reshny, Matt Vigridin, Colin Potter, Samuel Hanzek, who's out for the year, William Stromgren, Adar
hmm.
Suniev, Andrew Basha, Ethan Wittenbach, who I wouldn't have included in
Ooh,
this group prior to the season, but he's the
Whitlock.
leading scorer in college
Mm-hmm.
hockey. Hunter Brustevich, Henry Muse, Dustin Wolf, who's young in goalie years, but not
Very
prospect
good.
years. Arseny Sergeyev, Yegor Yegorov. Like they have a group of players, prospects,
Yep,
a pool, some depth there.
I like a couple of those. Yep.
But there's the question is okay, is Zane going to be a superstar, top pairing, offensive driving defenseman? If you don't have that, do you have something to help? And so this is a draft where I think they have a real discussion to be had when it comes to the forwards versus defense, in this, because they have a lot of guys, but do they have that top center? Do they have that you know top pairing defenseman that maybe is going to insulate Parekh, as you mentioned, as we were kind of preparing for this? You look at the top of this draft class. Is there a player or players or player archetype that you think could really help?
Yeah, I think Gavin McKenna would look good on this team. Shocking
You would.
analysis.
Yeah.
Shocking analysis. Yeah, no, I do. I think Connie's done a good job there. I think Craig's done a good job in the hand that he's been dealt. I think I think it was difficult sledding at the deadline there with some of the bigger name C's and available centers available, and for him to get that Kadri deal done, in the final seconds. I think he did some good work there. Like you mentioned, some of those prospects. I do think Zane Parekh is going to be, if treated properly, if recognized for what he is and what he can become, and not to try to mold him into something he's not, if they let him be the player that he should be, I think he can be a star. I think he can be someone who puts up a ton of points, who really ignites a power play unit, can create it 5-on-5, and will be subject to brain farts and errors and goals against. And you just take that with the good and you just handle that. And for a ninth overall pick, he can be a star, slam dunk. I think that's a win. So, and I do think that they recognize what kind of player he is. I really like Cole Reshny. I like Cole Reshney more now than I did a year ago. I think he's a really, really good player, and I think he can be a top 6 guy. After that, though, we start, question marks for top 6, top 4 guys. So what do they need? They need an elite number 1 center. They need an elite two-way defenseman to stabilize a guy like Zane Parekh to be, maybe they're not even on the same pair, but it's another guy who can chew up big minutes. So if it's on the same side, that's okay too. And they need more skill, continue to add more skill, which helps because they have 2 firsts and 4 seconds this year, right? So they're set up well to get, they've got 2 firsts and 2 seconds next year. They got 2/3 this year. So they're picking 8 times in the first 3 rounds. Like that's a good way to kind of supercharge things and add more depth, and that you hope one of those guys outkicks their coverage and becomes a player like they think Zane Parekh will do for them. So I do think Calgary's in a good spot. Where they pick in the top 5 or 6 or whatever, they're going to have an opportunity to take care of one of those needs. I do think that, if they went out and got themselves Caleb Maholtra or Tynan Lawrence, not to say either of them are going to be elite number 1 centers, but we're talking this draft class, they're the 2 with the best chance at it. 2-way D, I mean, Albert Smits is sitting right there. Carson Karls is sitting right there, right? Like, so they should be in and around the position to fill one of those needs. And they're a team that I don't envision them rushing this. I think that they're going to be looking to, support the young talent that they have on that roster while recognizing that it's like, we're going to be slowly moving out some of these vets, staying low, getting high draft picks, and then, look to push in a few years here.
Yeah. Yeah. As I look at kind of where they're at, I think one of those premium defense guys, one of the premium men, assuming, this, let's say they stay at number 2 and McKenna's gone, you've got, those premium defensemen that I think you have to at least start having the conversation about, not to rule out Ivar Stenberg, but, they did go sub 6-foot wingers in the last draft, or, center guys that can play center. But I think that the opportunity to land a potential top pairing guy, whether it's Verhoff, Karls, who else do you throw in there? As you mentioned, Smits. Otherwise, they're going to have an opportunity to land a premium defender in this group. They've got, it is a bit of a shallow position. You look kind of down their prospect system, and there's not a ton of guys that give you a ton of confidence that are going to be, outside of Parekh, that are going to be big time players, but you still have the opportunity. So I look at a Keaton Verhoff as an option there. I look at Karls, as you mentioned, and you say, all right, well, we've got something there. I think as you get a little bit further away, like, is Rudolph a top pairing guy? Is Smits a top pairing guy? Like, you're starting to be a little bit, like that. Is Reed too much of what we have? Those kinds of things. You'll have to kind of look at that. I should mention they also, they do have Henry Brustevich, who's had ups and downs, but still very much in the mix as a puck moving defenseman. You have Etienne Morin,
Henry or Hunter. That's Hunter, players, right?
Or Hunter. Sorry, I said Henry.
I'd be
Hunter
thinking,
is what I meant.
Yeah.
The other one. The first one, the one that had the former Kitchener Ranger and not the current London Knight. But there's a lot of real interesting opportunities here, and I agree with you. Like, I think Craig Conroy has been dealt a difficult and has handled it well, and has found ways to gain value. And as you mentioned, I mean, the multiple picks as of right now, having 6 of the top 52 picks in this draft does give them a lot of options. I think the 4 seconds is a very enticing chip if they need to use those or package those as assets.
Trade them up.
And their second first rounder this year, depending on if Vegas continues down this path where they haven't been as good as expected, that could be a mid-round first. And then you've got some real opportunity to add another impactful piece. They had the later firsts last year where they got Reshney and Potter. So we'll see where things go, but lots to be thought about with Calgary. I think that they're, to me, I think the premium D is where I'd go, but at the same time, like, from there, that's probably too electrifying a piece to pass up, especially with him being a Western Canadian kid on top of it. All right. Now for the tricky one, I feel like, because Chicago's got prospects all over the map and young guys all over the
They
map.
do.
They are currently number 3, the Chicago Blackhawks, in a very familiar spot over the last several years. You look at up and down at the young guys, and this is just naming a few of them, not all of them. Connor Bedard, Frank Nazar, Oliver Moore, Artem Levshinov, Sam Rinzel, Kevin Korchinski, who has struggled and hasn't been able to stay up, Vaclav Nestrasil, uh, Mason West, Sasha Boisvert, Ryan Green, who's been on the NHL roster, Anton Frandella, of course, Kanserov. So as we go down that list, Cam, what stands out to you as the most pressing need at this point?
So I actually did some like decent considering on this, because I think it depends a little bit on, not a little bit, I think it depends a lot on Artem Levshinov and Anton Frandell. So Anton Frandell has not played a lot of center the last few years at all. Plays a lot of wing, does well on the wing. That shot is a rocket, and it frees him up a little bit. Does Chicago see him as a center? Are they going to try him as a center? Does it work out long term? Because if he's not a center, I think they need an all-around two-way big center. If he is a center, I think they need that on the wing. I think they need that power winger who can finish and who can, be a physical presence and get in. So it's like, depending on which way Frandell goes, that'll dictate one of those needs up front. And then with Levshinov is that, they took him at number 2, but is he a number 1? Is he a true number 1? Is he a top pair guy? Because if he's not, you rattled off a couple D there. Rinzel, Lev, Korchinski, like they have size and they have ability, but are any of them number 1s? And if the answer is no, then I think they need that. I think they need an elite number 1 defenseman. But you're right; they're so well stocked, and they clearly targeted speed and skill for several years, and now they have a lot of that.
Mm-hmm.
And now last draft they targeted big and power, right? So so now they're starting Nestrasil, so they're starting to add to that side too. So I think they're in a great position. They could package some of those small, speedy guys up and target something in a trade, like a Now piece or a mid-20s guy that could fit the bill for some of their needs too. So they have lots and lots of options there. I really like what their scouting staff does too. I think it's smart. I think it's targeted. I think it's watching trends. I think it's watching the drafts each year and being like, okay, this is a draft that we can probably get good value on smaller speed guys. This is a draft that we can maybe get good value on bigger, tougher guys. So yeah, but I do think that a lot hinges on Frandell, on what he becomes and what they believe he'll be, for what they're going to target at the very top of this class.
Yeah, I mean, I think they'd like Frundell to be a center, but is he the power winger
I think so too.
that they need? Is that
Yeah.
if can you put Bedard down the middle with Frundell on his wing? Other things like that. You got
Right.
2 elite shooters right there, guys that maybe you separate them. There's you got to have enough pucks to go around too. On top of that, I mean, and the good news is for Chicago is guys like Frank Nazar, Oliver Moore have fit into roles on that team. Good role, like Nazar is playing a premium role. I think Moore is going to be kind of that middle role that is really necessary for a team. But yeah, I mean, the defense question is really interesting to me, because that's really where the power of this draft class lies, in terms of, if you get a McKenna, that's a really nice playmaking option. You have an opportunity, like if you get that player to play with a Connor Bedard, somebody to feed him more pucks, guy that doesn't necessarily need to be a shooter on there. But again, you're starting to get into, well, we've got Bedard, we've got Nazar, we've got Moore, we've got a lot of guys that are sub 6 foot players. Is that can we build that? Now you supplement that with Frundell and others, but even guys like Kanserov, who aren't here yet, not a big player, most of that size on the back end, and that's always the hard part, is I still think the book is way yet to be written on Levshinov. There have been some great moments, and there have been some really terrible moments that I've watched this year, and just in terms of things. And this is a player that is still very much figuring it out. I think if it all comes together, he still has that capability. Um, so I think if you're the Blackhawks, I think you kind of maybe even hope that you're out of the first overall discussion and into a more, hey,
Hmm.
let's see what's available to us and let's take that best available thing. Um, at some point too, Chicago is going to have to start using these guys not as the future pieces, but as trade bait. I
Yeah.
do think that there is such a thing as too many prospects.
Yep.
There's a number of reasons why that's important. One is when guys' contracts are up is important. You don't want everybody coming due at the same time. You don't want everybody having to
Mhm.
figure all this out with mixed bag of information and everybody's trying to come through. On top of that, you can't have a team that is this young and compete. Like they shed a lot more of their veteran talent this year. They're turning the team over to their younger guys, but you're still going to
Mhm.
have to supplement that in other ways. And I think you're more likely to do that via trade than you are free agency at this point, based on what we're starting to see that's becoming available. So I think that Chicago's in a
Yeah.
good position to, start pushing towards that competitiveness. But this is yet again another critical decision in that process, because where are the things that you need to find support? It's not about finding the guy that's the cornerstone. They have that. It's finding the guy that's going to be the right kind of supporting piece. So it still remains a fascinating decision, because they're probably going to be in that range where it's looking like those defensemen are available, or it's looking like Stenberg is available. And that's, again, more of the same of what you have. Um,
Mhm.
where do you need to find the balance? I mean, do you think, like, as we look at like Chicago's now, and yeah, you mentioned the power guys, they went big last year, got Nestrasil and West late. They
Amazing
got
West.
Frundell early.
Yeah.
You know, I'm just trying to figure out like what is the best path forward out of this, you know, which of the guys in this class really get them and push them forward. I'm not sure that I see a necessarily natural fit in this group.
Yeah, and you're right. I agree. I don't know if there is a guy that would be like, that's who they need. That's, like obviously Gavin McKenna would be great playmaking off the wing to a Frundell, to a Connor Bedard. But they don't necessarily need that exact skill set. It would be wonderful for them. But yeah, if they're all of a sudden they're picking at 4 or 5, I do think it's, is it Chase Reed, or do they go
Mm,
just stiff and they go Albert Smits, right? Where they're like, this is a
yeah.
top 4 guy that we can add. And like, they could potentially have an elite top 4 with him, with Levshinov, with Rinzel, who I really like too. I think there's a lot of upside with a
Yeah.
kid like him.
Still a
But
long
you're
way to
right.
go on his development trajectory. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Do they believe in Tynan Lawrence? Right. Like, it's so
Right.
there's, do they get, like, do they take the bigger center? Like, honestly, it's like their best course. They got Florida's second, or Florida's first round pick too, right? And
Yeah,
it's
they have
top 10
Florida's. They
protected.
have so they have another first in
Their
Florida's pick
their
now
first, I
from the
mean,
Seth
yeah.
Jones trade.
So that's probably going to be what? Like, that's going to likely be in the 12 to 14 range. Like, do they
Yeah,
go
well,
and do they take a D? Then do they take Oliver Savanto? There's your heavy center, your matchup
yeah.
center long term. I don't know, right? Like, that's just kind of spitballing here, but they're definitely going to have options as long as Florida doesn't tank out too bad, because we've heard rumblings of that too, right? That Florida's like nuts to that. We're going to get as low as we can go, maybe get ourselves an Albert Smiths.
Yeah, man, it's going to be interesting to see that. Yeah, they have 2 firsts, 3 seconds. They have been
Decent.
second pick merchants, second round, and they've
Hmm.
used them aggressively in either trades or trading up and finding different guys. And so you will definitely see. The thing is that it's always an exciting draft when Chicago is in the mix here, because you just really don't know where it's going to go in the end, and they have so many options available to them. And really, they do deserve a lot of credit for building a war chest of prospects that I do think have an opportunity to make a significant impact on their franchise. It's just, again, getting to the next level is still
Yeah.
feels a little bit further away than maybe the fans would like it to be. Um,
Yeah.
but that's where they're at. Well, we're going to go from Chicago over to the Big Apple and talk about the New York Rangers, another team that is rebuilding, retooling. They sent another letter to their fans. They let them know, hey, we got to restart again here a little bit. Obviously moved on from Artemi Panarin, did a lot of work that way. Now they're in, the fourth best odds presently as we record this for the number one pick in the NHL draft lottery. And Cam, what don't the Rangers need? That might be that's actually, no, I'm sorry. That's not the right question. What do they need? It's kind of a lot.
It's everything. I'm just going to say this one last time, maybe. What were they doing trading for JT Miller last year? What were they thinking on that one? Like, let's double down on the old guys. That was a strange move. They need everything. They need everything, right? Like, in the pipeline, love Gabe Perreault. Big fan of Gabe Perreault. Always have been. Don't see him being a superstar in this league, though. Liam Greentree got him in the Panarin deal. Good player, really good in the offensive zone, really good when he's got time and space, can be mean, has some power to his game. Boots aren't star level. Probably not going to be a star. Really like Malcolm Spence, going to be an energy line guy in all likelihood, right? EJ Emery, Scott Morrow, so they're lacking someone who can do all the heavy lifting, someone that they can really truly rely on to put up tons and tons of points. And so, quite honestly, like, dare I say, outside of Vancouver, the Rangers might need this first pick more than anybody, right? Like, Gavin McKenna would look good on Broadway. And for all the conspiracy theorists out there, it wouldn't shock me if he landed there that all the tinfoil hats would come out. They're Toronto or something, right? That would really set the world on fire. But no, this isn't a very good team. Right? Like, they've got Shesterkin in net, and when he's in the net, like, he's propping this team up, and they're still last in the league too. So they need everything.
Yep.
They've got, and what's their they've got Carolinas as well. They got Carolinas this year too.
Yeah,
so and Carolina's second.
Got Carolina's,
which will, in the third,
likely be a later first. Only 1 second at this point for this year. Lots of third round picks. So this is a time to really hit. And we talked about it, Alexis Lafreniere, thought that was great. And in hindsight, COVID had just hit, he missed a lot of time. There was a lot of things that didn't go right, but then you followed up and Capo Caco, and it's the same thing again. And oh boy, what are we going to do with all this? And
it's unlucky.
And it's unfortunate. That's just that's the way it goes. I guess, Caco was before Lafreniere, but the whole thing with being bad at the right time, once again, maybe they aren't, and so it's kind of an interesting place to be for this team. I do think, a Gavin McKenna helps, and having that skill level and having a player that can get you out of your seats. And, he doesn't, you had Artemi Panarin, and now you could, put in a Gavin McKenna, a few, it'll take him a while to get up to the Panarin level, but, you got a chance. So there's a lot of things there that work. But you just kind of look up and down their system. There's a lot of, it's fine. It's okay. Guys that have not necessarily popped. And, like you said, like, I love Gabe Perreault too, but if that's the centerpiece prospect, there's a lot more work that needs to be done. I think EJ Emery, a lot of work to do there. There's a lot of other things that they need to get figured out. Scott Morrow, we'll see. Like, I think he's a very tricky guy to get a handle on as a prospect. Never been super high on him, but
Carolina
also understand the incredible skill level that he has. So there's a lot there, but man, it's a tough spot. And Chris Drury has not made his life easier, has he?
No, he has not. And I don't foresee him getting to hang around for this rebuild for very long either. It's going to be tough. The returns on some of the deals, the decisions that he's made, like I said, the JT Miller one, just alone right there too. But, just talking about Caco and Lafreniere, like, it just got me thinking that, a 2 and then a 1 pick, like how they got those two guys. One's already gone. The other one, like, could be gone any day now, but he's 24 and he continues to underachieve. Versus, like, the Penguins got Malkin and Crosby when they decided to go 2 and 1, right? They got Malkin and Crosby, and that's just luck of the draw, sort of,
Right.
You know,
It's
time
being
of your
bad at the right
rebuild's better,
time.
folks. Right. But like, holy smokes, talk about like polar opposite ends of the spectrum. I'm sorry, Rangers fans. Like that is tough. And coming from someone who
That
grew
is
up a
tough.
Canucks fan,
Yeah.
I'm sure that's what'll happen the next 2 years for Vancouver here too.
Yeah. I think you're always hoping that the number one pick or somebody getting a top 5 pick is going to change the face of your franchise. And as far as the Rangers have been concerned, it
That's
just hasn't happened. So,
yeah.
will it happen this year? We will wait and find out. But the Rangers, lots to do there, and it's kind of hard to even spend a ton of time on it. Like, really, you get any of those players, they're going to be your top prospect. Whoever they're
Yeah.
taking is going to become their top prospect. So that's a good thing. Like, if it's McKenna, if it's Stenberg, if it's Verhoff, if it's any, you can keep going down the list, probably through the first 8 guys on any other ranking, and you say that guy is the best prospect that they have. So there's that at least. So that's fun.
There's that. Sure. We'll take that. But there's another team that
So
they
let's
need
go
to
next.
do just real quick. They just need to do serious
Yeah.
surgery, right? Like they need to continue. Obviously, Vincent Trocheck didn't move. The asking price was too high. We'll see if someone meets it at the draft here. But they need to make those moves to get some of those bigger, older contracts off the books to free up some more space for these and to stay bad. To stay bad for a couple of years, to do it properly. I can't. It kills me when teams lie to themselves and be like, it's all about, just getting into the playoffs and you see what happens. So let's just get into the playoffs. And that you look at it historically, it doesn't happen. The best teams win.
No.
And so if you're going to be one of the best teams, you're going to have to draft at the top of the draft. It's just literally, it's just how it works. So I hope that they do that,
Yes.
or rather than sending another letter home in February being like, oh, screwed up again. Guess we got to sell.
Yeah. I mean, like, if you're the New York Rangers, just getting in can't be the bar, and to build a contending team does take, you have to do it typically through the draft, and again, it's luck of the draw. Like, you look at Chicago in the Stanley Cup, they get Patrick Kane, Jonathan Taves. Like, it's typically, you get Nathan McKinnon, Cale Makar. You get these kind of things, Hedman and Stamkos. Like, those are the and that's what it takes. And it's really hard to replicate because you have to be bad at the right time. That could be the theme of the whole story, the whole show. Just be bad at the right time.
Sounds like the podcast title.
And everything will work out. All right.
We got our title.
Let's close out this discussion, Cam, if you don't mind, with the St. Louis Blues, who have actually been winning quite a bit lately, but they're still bottom 5 in the league as we record.
Yeah.
And they've got some interesting young players. They have Jimmy Snuggerud. They have Otto Stenberg. They have Justin Carbonneau, Dalibor Dvorsky, Adam Juracek. They have some clear needs. On top of that, they didn't trade Robert Thomas, so that's helpful. They still have guys like Jordan Kyrou and others, and you say, okay, all right, there's something to build around there. There's a little something. It's maybe not the most elite core by any stretch of the imagination, but it's something. And they have like Theo Lindstein, a bunch of other players that are in their mix. So if you're the Blues, where do you see the needs? Where do you think where can they make the biggest impact here?
Elite center, elite defenseman, elite winger, goalie, ripper goalie would be cool too. So yeah, let's fill pretty much. Let's fill. But you did, like, you rattled off some I'm a big Snugs guy.
Yeah.
Udo Stenberg, when we were in Gothenburg there, like the Frölunda fans chanting his name. Like I like Udo too, right? Like, he's a player. Carbonneau, right? Ripping it up. Was he a 50 in the queue again? I know it's the queue, but he's a good player. So they have guys that should fit in their top 9 coming up and be like contributors, 20 plus goal scorers, guys who can put the puck in the net, guys who can defend. A big time defenseman would be really good. I think top of the pile there, and a number 1 center. If they decide to move off Rob Thomas, you got to expect they're going to be getting that piece back in that deal. But like, to me, it seems crazy. Like, I like Robert Thomas. Like, I wouldn't be trading him right now. And as I just said, that some of these teams have to do major surgery, but how old is he? Right? He's 26. I want to say,
right, and
he's not an old man. There's still time for him to still be that guy.
Yeah, and you know what I think really his name being out there was probably as much about tree shaking as anything else, and just seeing what they could get out of teams. And no one was willing to pay as high a price as would have required to move him, so they kept him. So I think,
Yeah.
there's no harm in that. But, like,
Yeah.
now you're Robert Thomas, you've been in all these, what is your future there? What, and
There's the
you're also
harm.
like, hey,
Yeah.
yeah,
You
where
don't
where
want
where,
me?
where do I go from here? What do I do?
Yeah.
Like, there's a lot of
Right?
things that have to be figured out in St. Louis, and especially, like, they're also, potentially transitioning from the Doug Armstrong era into the Alex Steen era at some point here. So that's an intriguing wrinkle to this whole thing. What kind of stamp does Alex want to put on the club as he takes on a bigger role in their front office and all those other things that kind of come along with it? But yeah, I mean, that is a team where there are so many different directions that they can go. You say, they were looking to move Parayko. I think Parayko, there's, probably a chance that Parayko ends up moving closer to the draft, and then all of a sudden you do
Yeah.
have that real hole there that you need to fill. And yeah, I mean, like, they've had some bad luck too, like the whole Torrey Krug injury situation, the different things that have kind of popped up, because they had a good core, they had and veteran D that I thought were going to help them get over the hump, and it just hasn't worked out that way. They definitely need the goaltending component to stabilize. It does seem like Joel Hofer is going to get more of that
Yeah.
time in the net, which he should at this point.
Yeah.
So yeah, but gosh, so as I look at it, like, if they did get a center like Lawrence Malhotra, like, let's say you slip out of the top, whatever, and those guys are going to be there. Malhotra, I think, 7, 8, 9, anywhere in there. There's a chance, unless there's a team that's really desperate for a center. Lawrence, there's still, the jury is still out on whether or not, he is the number one center or not in this class. He has not had a good run at BU, has not helped his draft
Mm.
stock at all with that move. Um, so,
First primary
but
point of the
yeah,
year
this
there
is,
last night.
yeah, it's been tough sledding. So again, for the Blues, like, I think they have a good group of players, but they still need that, if Rob Thomas isn't your cornerstone, uh, you know, who is it? And
Nobody is.
they
Nobody
could
is.
potentially
Yeah.
get that player, or at least a significant building block for their future within this draft. I think, Snuggerud will be in there. They've and Dvorsky. I love Dvorsky. I think he's going to be a really good player,
Mm-hmm.
but is he going to be that top of the lineup guy? I think it's a little bit tougher to say. So,
Yeah.
lot
3
of
first-round picks. 3 first-round picks.
yeah. Hey,
Helps too.
yeah,
Right?
and
Never
I
hurts.
like, the last time they did that they got Dvorsky, they got Stenberg, they got Lindstein. They're like, hey, that's a good quartet, or triumvirate of players, and you figure out what happens from there. But yeah, I mean, it's all about, at this point, St. Louis, I don't think, they maybe have a foundation to build off of a little bit more than some of these other teams, with some of the veterans that they do have. But yeah, I mean, they were aggressive, and we'll see. I think those two late first, if you want to repackage those as a potential move up, that could be an option as well.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
we'll see what happens there. But no second rounders
All,
for the Blues this year.
no second
A lot
rounders.
of
All
firsts
these
and
teams,
thirds.
all these teams need to just do the Dallas 2018 thing, right? Go get your high pick, nail it. Miro. Hey, Heiskanen. Go get your mid first, Otter. Hey, go get your second rounder who pops in J-Rob. Like, it's not rocket science. Let's just take care of this. We can take it
Easy.
for him. Hey, maybe
Easy.
they should outsource to us. Chris and Cam make the picks 1 year. We'll hit them a home run or 3.
Yep.
Take our bonus.
Yep. I think, yeah, that's all you have
Sounds
to
like a
do.
plan.
All you have to do is pick
All I gotta
3
do. Shouldn't be
franchise
hard.
cornerstones consecutively in the same draft, and you're fine.
What's so hard about that?
Shout out to the Stars. That is one of the great draft coups of our generation. So
Yeah.
pretty
And then pull
incredible.
Wyatt Johnston a hot minute later.
Oh,
The
I know.
those
That
boys
one,
were cooking.
man,
Those are
they do a good job there at Dallas. There's no question
Yeah.
about it. There's no question about it. They have done a fantastic job at the draft table, and it has set them up well. And we will keep our eye on that. So now that we've talked about all these teams that are not good, let's go
Yeah.
and talk a little bit more about the prospects here. And we've got mostly NHL draft prospects to talk about, but I did want to bring up a couple of other topics. As I did mention a little bit earlier, Ottawa got their first round pick back. So they will
Yeah.
now pick 32nd overall. We know they're the only pick in the draft that we know for sure right now. 32nd overall is the Ottawa Senators. They had to pay $1 million fine. They had it taken away from the Evgeny Dadonov trade, that fiasco of a couple of years ago. The new ownership group argued successfully that they had not, it was too large a punishment for them to have to take on because of the previous administration. And it's just like, sure, here's your 32nd overall pick. Now you get that. You can't trade it. And you have to give us $1 million Canadian. And they said, like, fine. And so I have a question about that later in the show. But there will be 32 picks in the first round. Ottawa gets it. Those are the stipulations. But let's talk about the players that are going to be picked, Cam. Don't look now. Gavin McKenna did hit the 50-point mark. So
boy, howdy.
He is at 50 points in NCAA season, 18 points over his last 8. PSU wins their quarterfinal game against Minnesota. They will play Michigan in the Big Ten semifinals in Ann Arbor.
It's going to be fun.
Gavin McKenna, comeback trail.
Comeback trail. Yeah, man. He's forged the path for sure. 18 or 8 game streak. Like you said, the shot rate has been like through the roof. Like I was on a show the other day, like he's averaging like 4 a game. I'm like, he was averaging like 7 for a few weeks there. Like he's throwing pucks on net. He's looking good. I watched that game against Minnesota there last night. It was on Wednesday night, and he was doing a lot of good stuff. Like that report is pretty glowing. His ability to handle the puck, to set up his dekes with his feet, to set up, everything with his mind and his control of time and space. So touch passes, a couple of ugly giveaways too, between the legs, off the wall to the middle of the ice, turnover. That's okay. I'll take that. I'll take that with all the good that he brings too. So no, I think Gav is on the right track here. I think everybody's recognizing it too. It helps that Ivar's quieted right down. I think he's pointless in 6. So that isn't hurting matters either. But no, I think Gav is on the right path where he should be going. And like we said, 50 is good. 50's good. Second in NCAA scoring right now. Right up there for PPG. Like he's doing what we wanted to see from him. And I think, he's going to get a couple more games here anyways. So we get to see that number inch up too.
Yeah, well, while I absolutely agree that there's a lot more positive feelings around Gavin McKenna, I do hate to be the bearer of some cold water. Not a lot.
Oh, boy.
Just a little.
Oh, boy.
Yeah. In this span that Gavin McKenna has been red hot, Penn State has won 3 games. They are 3-6-2. 3-6-2 over that span. Now, it's a team sport, right? It's a team sport. It's not all on Gavin. I'm not trying to say that it is. All I'm saying is the positivity that he has brought to the table has not significantly led to positivity for his team. They are on the bubble to make the NCAA tournament now, which is,
I think that win last night
almost
set them up,
unthinkable.
Though, eh?
Now, what's that?
They should be good now. They should be good now after that win last night. I feel like even when they lose the conference tournament, that they're going to get an at-large now.
They should. It's close, but they're still not 100% in. So like, so. Yeah, and I'll get the official numbers on that, because it is a little bit tricky. We're in the NPI now, and it's a little bit different. But the different things that you can kind of see in terms of whether or not they'll make it in. There are always great resources for that. But yeah, so as of right now, according to the NPI probability matrix on College Hockey News, Penn State is now actually, yes. So you're right. They did at last night, they got out of the bubble and into the essentially in for the at large. So good call on you. So bad call on me for not looking at this before the morning, before the show. But I mean,
like, they went 0-3-1
I'll say
down the stretch there, and that's what screwed them, right? That's what put them in that bubble spot. And so the win last night was crucial, because that was season over.
Critical.
I think maybe there was an outside chance they would have gotten at large, but so they showed up when they needed to, at least.
Right, exactly. Yeah. So yeah, going into last night, it was tenuous. I think they were 11th
Yeah,
on their. Yeah,
yeah,
it's crazy because right now, like, Ohio State's 2 wins away from snatching an automatic qualifier from somebody because they
yeah,
smoked Wisconsin last night. Um,
yeah,
so it's really fascinating to watch. But Gavin McKenna, like, really now with the 50 points too, starting to launch himself into that conversation, back into the Hobie conversation. He's still 7 points behind Ethan Wittenbach, but one of only 2 players in the country over a point and a half per game, both of them
yeah.
freshmen. And McKenna is the second in assists in the nation as well with 36. And as you mentioned, that shot volume, he's now at 141 shots on goal, which is 5th most in the country with a 13.2 shooting percentage. So yeah, so
While
things
going to the
have definitely
WJC.
picked up. But let's see
Yeah.
Penn State. These are the games that matter coming, like these. He's had a great one to start. Now they got to play Michigan, who's number 1 in the country. Big opportunity for him to get those things all going in the right direction. All right, we have more good prospect news, and I believe a electrifying offensive defenseman is nearing his return. Cam, what do we got there?
Yeah, Zav, he's coming back. He's back skating. So he's missed what, 23 games? We
Yeah,
talked about it last week. He's got to get back. We didn't even
we
know what was
did.
wrong with him. He was like day to day for 2 months, 2.5 months. So yeah, he's got to get back in the lineup and he's got to start putting up points because he started the year pretty hot. I think he had 22 in his first 14, and then he had 14 in his next 22 or 21 or whatever. So it's like the pace definitely slowed before the injury took him out of the lineup. Not sure if that injury was affecting him during that spell or not. Could be a good question.
Right.
But I really hope that he does come back and he's got, he's dynamic and he's shifty and he's, because like at this point, like I don't think he's fallen out of round one. Even if he just kind of stays mid for the rest of the season. But I do think that that'll be, we're talking 20s. We're talking about some of these teams that need something. Maybe they got a second first round pick and they're picking 24, 25. And they're like, yeah, sign us up for maybe a chance at stealing a Lane Hudson 2.0 here. But if he shows out, I think that he'll be a real serious consideration in the teens for some of these clubs too.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, he is an exciting player to watch, a lot of fun. One other note on the QMJHL that came this weekend, or I have 2 QMJHL notes, and then we're going to get back to some prospects. But the first one is Tommy Blyle, NHL draft eligible,
Yeah.
late 07 birth date, set the rookie defenseman assists record in the league, the Moncton Wildcats here. He has 64 assists this season in 58 games. And this was a guy that was playing Massachusetts prep school last year, playing for Cushing
Mm-hmm.
Academy last season, got a few games with the Dubuque Fighting Saints, played a little bit in the off season, for the prep schools of the 18U hockey, but he has 76 points in 58 games. Kind of came out of
Off to
nowhere. He's
MSU.
committed to Michigan State. What's that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I just said
Yeah,
off to
so
MSU next year. Yeah.
off to MSU. Yep. So committed to Michigan State. And then he is, yeah. So they have him and Chase Reed coming in next year. Now, I'm not trying to say Blyle has put himself into the first round discussion because I don't think that he has, but he is an incredible skater, really good feet.
Mm-hmm.
So you think maybe he has,
I think that
judging by your facial
there's
expressions.
yeah, no, I think he's put himself in the conversation because I think when you look at that last handful, like 5 to 7 picks, when you're picking it at 25 to 32, I think it's wide open this year. I think it's wide open most years, but teams at that point certainly are going to just be like, this is the guy that we rate highly, even if public has them 50, 60, whatever, right? Like teams are not afraid to be like, this is our guy and in that range. And so, yeah, I do think he's put himself in the conversation and the statistical profile helps a lot, but you're right. The feet,
Yeah.
right? His skating ability is that you want to bet on that. Like we've seen like smaller guys who put up tons of junior points, but they can't skate. And that's why they're like, oh yeah, they end up being like a 7th round pick. And we're like, well, look at those numbers. But if you can skate, you can play. And so I do think he's put himself in the conversation.
Yeah, very intriguing player nonetheless for the draft
Mm.
because of that skating ability. And the last QMJHL note, have you seen what Chicoutimi's doing right now?
Yeah.
54 goals
Oh
in
my
their
God.
last 5 games. 54 in their
Dude.
last 5. They had the best stretch since the 1970s, best 5-game span in terms of goal scoring. They're over 300 goals scored for the entire season, and yet they're just 1 point ahead of Moncton in the standings.
Yeah. Moncton's
So
good
it's
too.
kind of crazy. But Chicoutimi, I think it's been over 30 years since they've won the Q. They are a wagon right now. But getting back to the prospects, you
Max
had
Massey,
one in
20 points in
WHL
those 5
that's
games.
starting to heat up a little bit.
Yeah. Max Massey with 20 points over that 5-game stretch
That's
too.
a good
Ducks
guess.
3rd rounder.
Yeah. Shout out
Cooking.
Ducks
He's
prospect,
cooking.
yep.
Yeah. Mathis Preston, is he back? Is he starting to heat up? Are we getting back on the trolley with him too? Just 3 games back, but he's 1+2 with that nasty shootout goal. He's got 15 shots on goal. The Giants suck. I'm sorry, Vancouver sucks. But him and I think Lynn has looked really good too. I checked out one of those games. He was commanding. And the team around him, not good. Ryan Lynn, very, very good. But I've liked some of the assertiveness from Preston's game here since he's come back from injury. And I'm sure he's heard all the things that everybody's been saying and how difficult it's been from this year. And then he gets traded and then he gets injured right away. And so it's like he's probably been sitting around doom scrolling World War III TikToks and criticisms about his game and his draft stock falling down like the rest of us. So yeah, so I like it. I like to see it, and I hope that it continues because he's got the skill, right? We remember coming out of the Holinka there. We're like, this kid's real, right? U18s. He puts on Team Canada jerseys. He rips it up in Spokane when he was playing there with Cat, and we're like, man, this kid's good. He can put up points. Let's see it some more.
Yeah, man. Well, not a moment too soon for him to get back and get rolling again here. So we'll see where that goes. All right, now let's look into the future, Cam. The way too distant future, but more immediately. There's some rumblings going on that the OHL has an exceptional status player in their midst here, and that player is Cade O'Rourke. Tell us what you know. Tell us what we know so far, and at this point, really intriguing option for exceptional status for a number of reasons.
Yeah, 15-year-old kid, 6'1", right shot D, great skater, great puck mover, and that's just me pretending that I've watched him a bunch. That's reading scouting reports off this great website. I think it's called Elite Prospects. Yeah, checked in with some people. The rumors have been buzzing for a little bit, that he applied and that he might get it. Texas kid playing the GTHL this year as an underager and dominating there. But I did see one kind of smaller outlet there, or not outlet, Twitter account post that it was done, that he was granted exceptional status. I've reached out to Hockey Canada and the CHL, and nobody has greenlit it to me yet. So I've got some irons in the fire there to see if we can get confirmation on this over the next coming days. But it's certainly been out there, and it wouldn't surprise me, and we'll get into it in a little bit, if that they do accept it and we start to see that a little more common moving forward here.
Yeah, and here's the thing, so O'Rourke, born in Texas, as you mentioned, it has been incredibly rare, in fact, almost never, that they have granted exceptional status to a non-Canadian born player. Now they did it. Sean Day was a player that had multiple nationalities. He also, did not, but either way, there was a period of time where Jack Hughes was being considered for exceptional status. But there was some reluctance, if memory serves, to give it to an American player, but he did have the capability to become Canadian. Because they were living in Canada. And he didn't.
GTHL.
And he went to the NTDP, and the rest is history. Golden goal scorer. Good thing they didn't sign that paperwork there. So that's one thing. So so there's a lot of things about that, but we're going to talk about Beyond Belief here in just a second about this exceptional status and the future of it, because I think it is an important discussion to have, because we're in a new landscape, and that's going to be the thing that we'll get to. So without beating around the bush too much, so yeah, let's go. We're going to Beyond Belief.
Yeah, let's go.
And I'm even going to skip ahead to that one. It's not. Well, no, I'm not. I'm going because I don't want to screw up I don't want to screw up Amanda, our producer, because I did put them in a different order before. So we're gonna get
All
to it. I
right, all
promise.
right,
I promise.
all right.
But anyway, oh man, this is why we prepare, right? We prepare, and sometimes we don't. But all right.
Yeah.
So we'll get to that in just a second. But before that, we get to our Beyond Belief segment, which is where we give each other a statement and decide if it is beyond belief or believable. Cam, the Ottawa Senators' number 32 overall pick was worth the $1 million fine it cost to get the pick back. And that's 1 million Canadian, by the way.
Which is like $45 American. I don't fancy myself a Nostradamus predictor of the future, but boy, oh boy, could you have predicted this one, right? Remember the Devils when they were supposed to give up a first round pick and they're like, oh, we'll just keep pushing it back 1 year. And then they lost in the cup final and they're like, yeah, we're not going to give up this one either. And everyone's like, you're not going to give up 29? What do you think? You're going to win it next year and you'll give up 30? Oh, they didn't have to give up that one next year either. The league. Oh, we're sorry. It's okay. That was too harsh. Oh, Sens, we're going to take your first round pick away. Oh, we'll just wait. Not 24, not 25. All right, we'll give up 26. Oh, we don't have to give it up. Oh, that's lovely. But did they let Vancouver off the hook for the Roberto Luongo contract that was signed legally at the time? And then they changed the rules later and they still punished them with that cap recapture penalty. I'm still furious about that. That is outrageous to me. But anyways, yeah, $1 million, totally worth it. I'll pay $1 million for a first round pick. Yeah, easy money, right? They paid $1 billion for the franchise. You pay $1 million Canadian for a first round pick. I think you offer up to owners right now. I bet you'd have a whole bunch of them be like, we'll take 33 for $1 million, maybe $950K. Just start selling picks. Selling picks. Could be the new revenue.
The first, second round pick. Yeah. Well, that's basically what they did. That's basically what they did.
Exactly what they did.
Because the value of 32 versus the value of, 45, 50, like probably not a huge gap between. It is worth it this year. And the only reason to me that it's worth it is because they wouldn't have otherwise had a pick until 76th overall. Where they're at right now, relative to where they're at right now. Which was a pick from the Panthers. So they actually don't have many of their own their own draft picks this year. As of right now, only 3 are originally owned by them, but cannot trade this pick. No. So, I think it'd be, if you could, I would be like, I'll give you 1.5, like something like that.
Yeah,
so,
exactly. I want some flexibility.
Maybe we could make this a negotiation here. So really weird, but now we'll have 32 picks in the draft. So that's nice.
I guess.
All right.
I like the idea, not because Sens fans and the Senators were going to suffer. I just like the idea of something like that happening. And it's like, oh, hey, skip a pick. We got 31 this time, right? Like it's just add some more interest and intrigue and storyline to it. Now it's like, oh yeah, back to 32, and they just get their pick back, whatever.
Yeah.
I'm not bitter.
Well, at least we know what the 32nd pick's going to be.
Yeah.
So
that's true. Yeah. Gabriel Eliasson, is there another one of him? What big guy are they taking at 32 there?
Yeah. Who's the big mean guy coming up?
Yeah.
All right, buddy, your turn to hit me.
Okay. I was mentioning him earlier. He's back. He's looking good. Ryan Lynn's going to make a resurgence up draft boards after a big old U18 performance, because I think we can safely say the Giants aren't going to be playing, and he'll be over there in Bratislava and Trenton without you, but I'll be there.
Yeah. I mean, I think, certainly gives him a great opportunity to build. So I'm going to say yes, believable that he is going to have a resurgence. I think the Canadian team has a chance to be really special at that tournament. They're going to have a number of really intriguing players and prospects available to them. Not the least of which is Lynn, who was on the team last year. And so having that experience helps. And I think that's going to be a good thing for him. Last year at that tournament, we saw the emergence of a number of players. I thought, Xavier Villeneuve had a great tournament and others did as well. But like we just see these players build. I think that'll be great for Ryan Lynn and potentially his last crack at the U18s, but then it gives him an opportunity to put himself on the radar for the World Juniors. So I just think he'll be extra motivated to have a really big tournament, and I think that'll be a place where he can thrive.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think he's really, really good and smart, and he'll show up. And I just want to slide this in there. I think we might see Maddox Schultz and Liam Pugh there too. I think there's a real world chance that we're and like that is gonna be fun. I
Yeah.
hope they do it. I hope they do it. Bring them
It,
both.
yeah. Why
Play
not?
them on a
You
third
know,
line.
I mean, like
Why
they
not?
were they were so dominant at the U17s. You know, why not give them a chance? And then I
Yeah.
also think, yeah, for Canada, that tournament has to be, they've they've talked about not always taking the best players available to them. Well, I think a lot of these younger players have proven, give us the chance and we'll show you what we can do. And I
Totally.
was there when a young guy by the name of Connor McDavid played in his exceptional season. And boy, oh boy, that was that
Pretty
was that was
good.
that was when oh, this one's different. This one's a little different.
Mm.
So pretty good player.
Was that
All right.
2013? 2012?
Yeah, it was 2013. 2013 in
2013. Yeah, yeah,
Sochi.
yeah.
So yeah, so
Sochi.
I was
Whew.
lucky enough to be there to watch that.
Good
And
one.
yeah, yeah. So all right, my turn, and we'll get back to the topic that we were just talking about a little bit ago. We will see more players granted exceptional status in the new landscape. So the
100%.
CHL, real quick preamble, CHL has been granting exceptional status for quite a long time, the pretty high to clear.
Yeah.
There's a lot of different factors that go into it, including like, emotional and emotional maturity and all those things. So now that we're here, will we see more of these players going forward?
Beyond belief. Just kidding. Yeah, I already said 100%. No, I think it makes way too much sense. I think that Schultz could have had it last year if he wanted. He chose not to.
Right.
But as the league recognizes more and more and more that this is going to become a younger league as more talent leaves for the NCAA at 17, 18, 19, 20, that they need butts in seats. Youthful, skilled players will sell excitement. And then you can try to support them with some of those 18, 19, 20-year-olds that didn't take off. So yes, I do think we're going to see more 15-year-olds. They already opened up the rules, at least in the West. I think it's everywhere where the kids who don't take exceptional can still play 34 games, and once their season's done
Yep.
in minor hockey, they can move over for the playoffs too. So you're getting a healthy dose of guys like Schultz and Pugh already, but I think that getting those exceptional status kids in there, and you're right, it does take the right kid, because not every 15-year-old, even if they're supremely talented on the ice, is ready for that jump. Physically, you don't want to see guys get hurt. Like, was it Savoy years ago who got just trucked when he was playing as a 15-year-old? And he was a January 1
Yep.
birthday. So he was like one day away from being eligible, just playing in the league, applied for exceptional status, didn't get it, but they let him play a bunch more games, and he got destroyed in open ice. And you don't want to see that kind of stuff. You don't want to see kids get hurt. And then, you mentioned it too, right? The emotional maturity as well. So leaving home early, not for everybody at that age too, even if you got yourself a strong billet or a strong organization. So they do have to be careful, but I do think we'll see it more often.
Yeah, absolutely. And to me, the real question is how many more players from not Canada do they
Yeah.
consider? And I mean,
Yeah.
in Caden O'Rourke's case, he is playing in Canada now. He's playing in the GTHL.
Yep.
Will that all of a
Yep.
sudden become a path that more American players are going to take? I'm not entirely positive on the GTHL import rules and all those other things that, it's not something that I've spent a lot of time on, but you know, the opportunity to be the clearinghouse for the best players in the sport, if you give them the opportunity to come up a year early, does that entice
Mm-hmm.
them to more likely play in your league? That's the other
Yeah.
thing. So there's a lot of different things that will be played in here. And it is important to note too, as you mentioned, it's not just about like the OHL can grant exceptional status. Hockey Canada has to as well. And so
Yeah.
that's
Yeah. Yeah.
another, like that's there's a large amount of governance in this decision.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm with you. I think we will see more players because junior hockey is going to get younger. I don't think it's going to be like 10 a year. I don't think it's going to be
No,
like,
no, no, no.
but it's going to be hey, we're going to loosen the reins a little bit on this so that we can make sure the best players are put in the best position to succeed. And I do think we'll see more players going exceptional.
Yep. Okay, last one. Bring it back to this year's draft. The Ruck twins are still ripping it up in the West, 1-2 in scoring. I don't think they're tied anymore. Last I checked, I think it was 98, 97 points. Are they going to end up in the same organization? Are we going to see it? Are we going to see twins going to the same organization? We've seen it a couple times, most notably the Sedins. Could it happen again? Will it happen again?
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to say it is believable largely because look at so many of the teams that have multiple second round picks. Like I think that they are probably the sense is that they're more valuable together than independently. But at the same time, there is a gap between the twins as well.
Yep.
And so, I think that there is that opportunity exists because, but like, are either one of them a first for you?
I mean, Liam is like in that discussion for sure. But that's like that's the thing, right? Is that do you value even one of them as a first rounder? And if you do, it's a late first rounder. And then the other guy,
Right.
so you have to have a late first and then a mid second or something like that to feel, or even an early second if you want to have both of them. So I know, like, I get asked this question a lot in Vancouver media because they have the Minnesota pick and they have their own second and they have San Jose's second. So it's like they have the tools to do it. It's like, do I think that they should? Let's see who's on the board.
Yeah.
But
This
ain't Henrik and Daniel.
Is it worth it?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not that.
Is it worth pushing up for it? Yeah. So I like you think it's believable. And honestly, I kind of think it will happen. I kind of think a team will do it, that they'll get them both and it'll be a cool story. And maybe it'll work out better for both of them.
Yeah. I mean, but let's beyond where they go in the draft, the fact that we have twin brothers, 1-2 in the scoring, and Marcus has more points. Liam is largely considered the better of the two.
Yeah.
Marcus has more points this year. Liam has way more goals. So we got Scory and Passy Ruck as well. Scory
Daniel
Sedin and Passy Sedin and all that other stuff. Yeah. So but pretty incredible. And all three of the top scorers in the WHL are draft eligible, with JP Hurlburt trailing them with 93 points. So
he's slowed
shout
down
out to the Ruck family.
He
has.
JP, yeah.
Does he play in the U18 Worlds? We already talked about that.
For which country?
So,
Sorry,
whoa,
hey,
whoa,
yeah. He's a Texas boy too, right? He's a Texas
he
kid,
is.
wasn't he? Wasn't JP a Texas kid?
Yeah.
Right?
It's the whole thing. Yeah. If you want to play in the OHL from Texas, you got to go to Ontario. So lots of very interesting things to sort through, and we'll get through all of them as we continue to push forward and closer to the draft. But it's time to wrap this podcast up with our last segment, and it is You Have to Pick One. And we're getting to that season. It's almost U18 Worlds. We've talked about a number of the players that could be there this year. Cam, I'm going to start with you. The best spot to scout high-end players for the draft, is it the U18 Worlds or is it the World Junior Championship?
Gosh, this was such an easy question a few years ago. It's like the U18s. It's like you're getting so many of the draft eligibles there, plus a couple, some of the high-end younger guys. It's good competition. We've got, the top teams are all there, and then it's like no Russia. You never got all the great Canadians because a lot of them are still in the CHL playoffs. And you don't get, well, I guess you get mostly great Americans unless they're playing in the OHL or something too, but it's changed. I think it is a little bit more watered down, the U18s. And I think the World Juniors is interesting because you get those very top flight draft eligibles and you get to see them against like really stiff competition. And I think that provides a lot of information. I'm torn. I mean, like, to get reports done and to get last views on players at the end of their season, I think I'm still gonna say U18s just because of the breadth of players that you get to see. The volume, right? There's so many from a wide array, and you get to see them multiple times, and we've seen them all year. And now it's like, here's our last look at them before the combine. So I will say the U18s, but it's certainly that gap is closed.
Yeah, and I'm gonna go. I would have said the U18s for years and years and years. I'll go the opposite way. I'm gonna go with the World Juniors, and what I'll do with that
Nice.
too is, I look at the other nations and the opportunities that provides, the chance to see an Albert Smiths in that kind of, like, we saw him at the U18s, but I think I got way more value out of seeing him at the World Juniors this past year
Oh
in terms
yeah.
of, and it's his draft year. It's different time, but
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
the minutes he was playing, the role he was playing, all those different things, and seeing him against a better competition. Ivar Stenberg, Gavin McKenna, Keaton Verhoff, Carson Carls, like getting all those guys, Chase Reed, getting guys. Teams are becoming less and less reluctant to bring the youngsters because we have
Hmm.
continually, if they are at the top of the class as we think they are, they will make an impact. And so that's always interesting to me. So I think that's really exciting about this team, about that tournament in more recent years. And the absence of Russia is, quite frankly, for both tournaments, a net negative for views. And so
Yeah.
that's the hard part for us, is that we do get at least 1 to 2 fewer competitive games for many of these teams, to see that, and that's at both levels, but it feels much larger of an impact at the U18 level than it does at the World Juniors.
Yeah.
So there we go.
Here, here.
All right,
Mm.
Cam, what do we got going on Elite Prospects that you got to tell about?
Yeah, you gotta go check out. We dropped our NCAA free agent guide. That's always a big hitter this time of year. Some names are going to start peeling off. Tyson Gross just went to Calgary, I believe, this morning. We're going to be waiting on a few of these big name players. TJ Hughes is obviously hoping Michigan goes real deep. Brendan Burr at Union, like there's going to be some good players, I think, available. So that's something to go check out too. We're getting into our film room series here pretty quick. I'm off to Denver for the Avalanche, putting on that analytics conference here later this month. So I'm excited for that. Won't be replacing the draft, but have all 32 organizations under one roof and get to pick some brains and hear some scuttlebutt. So looking forward to that too. But the streak is on, and then straight to Frozen 4 in Vegas. And are you coming to that one? Are you leaving me hanging? Are you coming to that one?
Well, yeah, everything's up in the air at this point, because it's like we
Oh,
got lots of
geez.
stuff going on here over at FloHockey as well, because we got OHL playoffs will be kicking off
Yeah.
there, QMJHL playoffs. There's so much going on. And then on top of that, we do have the ACHA National Championships right now, which are rolling in St. Louis and available on FloHockey. So a lot of different things that we're kind of playing with. I typically am at the Frozen Four. I'd certainly love to be there. I think there's going to be a lot of draft reasons to be there this year. A lot of guys to
Yeah.
see, and even not great chance to look at the future of the game. We've had some really great tournaments over there in the last few years. But yeah, man, I'm excited. I think there's a lot of good hockey to come, and I'm going to try to get to as much of it as I possibly can, because there's no shortage of just electric players beneath the NHL. I don't think there's ever been a better time to do what we do. So it's just really exciting that we're going to have these opportunities here to see some of these top end talents, and a lot of them you can watch right on FloHockey. So make sure you get that annual subscription, and get all some great hockey down the stretch as the playoffs begin in the OHL and the QMJHL at the end of the month. Then we got the AHL and ECHL after that as well. So lots to come there. All right, folks, that's going to do it for this week's episode of Called Up the Prospects podcast. Really excited to get this show to you, and always a pleasure to be joined by my pal Cam Robinson. And for the both of us, that's going to do it for this week's episode. We'll see you next time.